Welcome to the Cookies and Coffee podcast. My name is Cale Owen.
And my name is Maggie Owen. I am the VP of Operations and Cale is the CEO. And together we run 2 8-figure businesses and we are in the middle of building a startup.
And this podcast is to document our journey as high-level executives, as parents, and as husband and wife, so that we can share what's working for us, what we found that doesn't work, lessons, tips, and tricks, so that if you are married and working together or want to do that, you can learn from what has worked for us and for many other people so that you can have an incredible marriage, an incredible business, and an incredible life. All right, back with another episode.
Let's
rock this out. So we just got done with STRAT. So for anyone that's listening, just to recap real quick, we both are 1 and 2 within a portfolio company. We have 3 companies, and every quarter we get our leadership team across all of our companies together, and we do a roughly 2.5 day quarterly planning event. And it happens every quarter. Without fail. And we have a specific process that we follow leading up to it. This will be a chance for us to walk through that process, what that looks like, what it's like for both of us to go into it, both as CEO, VP of Ops, as well as husband and wife. And then also for our own purposes, we'll probably look at it and just be like, hey, these are some lessons that we took from it, what we'll do better, what we need to improve on.
Yeah.
Sweet. So the way that we structure them typically is they're 2.5 days, and we will do one company in the morning, another company in the afternoon of day 1, another company, like third company, day 2 morning.
Yep.
And then the afternoon we'll do an event.
Yeah.
Like we'll do like a team event.
That's how we did it this quarter. But I think it's like important to know we've followed like the same structure of like an in-person every quarter, but I think every quarter's looked slightly different. So I think it's like really good to sit and analyze, because last time we didn't even do an event at all. And we just used both days for all 3 companies.
That's true.
For like overflow. But I think we always try to sit down.
We had one scheduled though, right? But we cut it. We just didn't do it.
Not an outing. We were going to do like just a team building activity like in the office.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, we did just cut it.
Yeah.
Because we just ran out of time.
Yep.
But I think it's always good to just sit back and evaluate the quarters, which is what we're going to do now, on how everything went. And then we always tweak it to make it a little better each quarter. Which I think is super important to do, because hopefully your business isn't going to look the same as it did the previous quarter. And hopefully you're growing and you're scaling. And in our case, we're like building another company. And so the needs are different every single quarter. And so they look different. And
just for context for everyone, when we go through our planning phase, because we get this question a lot from people, it's like, how do you plan your goals per quarter, et cetera? So what we do as a portfolio company of American Pacific Group, we follow their process, and their process is called the Q process. And there's 3 steps to it. We first start with our DSO, which is our desired superior outcome, which is where do you want your business to be in a dream state in 3 to 5 years?
Yep.
We start there. Then we set VFOs, vital few objectives, which are yearly objectives that our goal is to accomplish those. And by accomplishing those will get us closer to achieving our DSO. And then we break it down into quarterly MITs, most important tasks. Very simple, very similar to OKRs and WIGs and things like that across board. It's all the same stuff.
Yep.
What's the EOS system, like the rocks and the pebbles and the sand and all that. It's like all the same. It's just everyone has a different way of doing it.
Yeah, different names for it.
Yeah, within the portfolio, that's how we do it with APG. And we'd already been doing basically something similar previously. The only thing I think we were missing was the VFOs and the DSOs. We were very
like quarterly. Like we were reactive quarterly. So each quarter we just like sit down and be like, oh, what did we accomplish last quarter? What do we want to do this quarter? Without looking at the full context of, okay, well, where do we want to be in a year? And then where do we want to be in 3 to 5 years? I think the biggest step was introducing the 3 to 5 year plan. Because I think sometimes we still were kind of, we would look at the year, we wouldn't voice it really. And then we just kind of know like, oh, we're kind of, aiming for this by the end of the year. And usually they were outcome, like they were revenue based, or we would set it with a lagging indicator, which is basically like, what is the outcome of all of the tasks that you're going to do, versus looking at what are all the things that have to happen in this quarter and this year to accomplish where we want to go.
Yeah. We've done a much better job of switching to leading indicators, behavior-based
stuff,
rather than something else. So that's how we do it. And when we structure this, you can have no more than 5 VFOs at a time. You mark them off when they're done, and then you add a new one, and it just keeps rolling.
Yep.
DSOs can be limitless, but typically like to be inside the 8 to 10 is with a DSO.
Yep.
And then our MITs are the same as VFOs. You have no more than 5 MITs.
Per company.
Per company, yes, correct. So all these are per company. And so it makes it for like a full event because strategically we're defined more by our no's than our yeses. And there's always lots of opportunities. And we have to take into account a lot of things. We have to take into account the resources that we have on the team. We have to take into account where we are currently, where the marketplace is going, where what's the trends that we're seeing inside of the business, whether it's new sales, churn, whatever. We also have to look at, are there fires in the business? What's happening? What needs to be fixed? And this quarter was a dumpster fire for one of our companies. Without
I feel like a lot of quarters are, there's always little dumpster fires everywhere. It's just part of business.
Let's talk about that real quick. I actually want to hit on that. If you think that your business is just perfect, awesome, everything's great, you're not looking hard enough because there's not a day that goes by. Not a day that goes by that I don't think this whole thing could crumble and it could just wipe away. Is that real? No, that's not, which is why I don't even think about it. I act in spite of it and we just keep moving forward to try to improve. But if you're a leader inside of a business, if you're a manager, director, it actually doesn't matter what level you are, you should always be trying to find the holes in the business and then fixing those, plugging those holes. Like that is the whole, it's all problem solving. That's it. Because there's always going to be problems. And once you reach a new level, there's going to be a new problem to solve. So it's always staying vigilant and being careful of what's moving, like what's happening inside of the business. And the biggest lesson for me from this past quarter was being even more vigilant because like the stuff that we uncovered is just an absolute heaping pile of shenanigans. So.
Yeah. I think I was really trying to analyze this over the past couple of days because, the dumpster fires that we uncovered were all under a department that reported up to me. And so I was trying to think back and really analyze, like, where did I go wrong? Where did I not dive in deep enough? And one of those is like, we should have transitioned roles out sooner than what we did, which is like, first step of the problem is like, we definitely felt it. And I held on to a position longer than probably needed to do so. But because it was comfortable, because I didn't want to dive into all of the fires that I knew we were probably going to uncover. But, I was thinking, our theme kind of this year has been trust. Well, probably the last 2 years is trust, but verify. Is like trust the process, but always verify. And I was thinking about that. And I was like, what we were verifying from like a high level overview of stats, like everything looked good from a number standpoint. So I look at the financials in the data.
And keep this, can I say this for perspective for everyone? If you're a leader, like we see dumpster fires everywhere and we're still $1 million ahead of our budgeted EBITDA.
Yeah.
That's profit. So like we're still $1 million ahead halfway through the year and we just see dumpster fires everywhere.
Yeah. But I think that's like good as a leader. Like you should see fires everywhere. And then again, it's like our ability to know which ones you let burn for a little while and which ones you have to dive into. Like one of the best things I had ever learned from Layla is like, I felt like I wasn't able to get anything done in my day at all. And so she's like, well, let's like look what you're doing. And I was just stopping all day for just like Slacks coming in and emails coming in, just like people, it's just like little fires all day long just coming in. And like, that's how I was spending my day. I was so reactive every day. And she's like, are these things I can just wait? Like, how important are they to the business? Like, do you have to stop everything you're doing right now to like focus on this fire? Like, she's like, is it a dumpster fire in your living room that's like a slow controlled burn that you could just like kind of let go? Or is like the whole house on fire? Like payment processing down, is down, like all your clients are leaving. Like, what is the type of fire it is? And that like helped shift my perspective so much. It's like, oh, I can let this ride for a little while. And like, it's not going to be comfortable, but it's also not going to tank the business if we just let it burn for a while we focus on some other things. And so, but I think what was important this past quarter is, when we stepped into our roles, we had leaders within the business that really wanted to step up. And so they were like, no, let us do this. Let us handle it. We've got it. We can do it. All very green in their roles. And so, it's not their fault. It's our fault for not diving in a little deeper and supporting them better in the new roles that they were also in. But I think I was viewing diving in deeper as like micromanaging them, but like verifying isn't micromanaging. And I think that was like the shift that I had. Like I viewed if I was like asking questions and diving deeper, that was like me micromanaging, but micromanaging is like telling someone how to do their job. But if you're just asking the questions and trying to figure out how to give them a better solution, like that's not micromanaging. And so that was the biggest thing that I learned this quarter of like uncovering all of this is trusting but verifying, and then like asking the right questions and diving in deeper Because if you have the right people in those roles, they want to rise up to the challenge. That's how you support them better, is by asking the right questions, figuring out where their bottlenecks are and like supporting them in that, versus, you know, the opposite of that would be diving in and like telling them exactly what to do the way that you would do it, which is obviously not what anybody wants. But I think that's where like it was a really big miss over the last like 2 quarters of like really asking the right questions and like wanting to like take a hands-off approach and letting them know, okay, you guys can do it. Like you say you want to do it, then do it. But then not providing any support along the way on how they should get there.
Well, I don't think it's that you didn't provide support or I didn't provide support or anything like that. Actually, I'm going to challenge you on that. I think that where we failed was we made a lot of assumptions that things were happening, and where there's smoke, there's fire. And when we would dig just enough, we just didn't dig further, and we didn't teach them how to understand we didn't make it clear enough to them like what actually is a problem and like how to fix that problem. And part of that is support, but that part of that also, they need to own that. Because if you're going to come to me as the CEO and you're like, no, we got this handled. I'm asking questions and you're like, yep, we're already doing this, or yep, we're already doing this, or yep, we're doing this. Like my assumption at that point, which is why I'm saying no assumptions.
Yeah.
My thought process there is, okay, we've got this handled. Now we're going to see this improve.
But I think that's where our mistake was, is we didn't see any of it improve.
Correct.
Which is where we then should have followed up and said, well, how are we doing it?
Correct.
Like there's a part of the process of what you're saying is broken somewhere because it's not actually improving the results.
And that's where execution over strategy at that point, because the strategy at the end of the day is important, but like how you execute the strategy is way more important, and down to the detail of how you reply to clients on customer service tickets. Like the words that you use truly do matter.
Yep.
And like when we're on our sales team, right? Instead of having setters do it on Zoom, we've never done that in the past. And I don't know why we switched to it, to just calling people to just to qualify them. Like as soon as we do that, we double our show percentage.
Yeah.
Like in a couple days. And it's early, but it's doing the basic things. But we take that, doing the basics is never basic. It's always advanced for people, especially for people that don't have a high level skill set, because they think they need to do something cute in order to make it better.
Yeah.
When we could just double down on the basics and just do them better.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing from my standpoint as a leader, is no assumptions. I mean, the 2 things that I had for the quarter were speed is king and no assumptions.
Yeah.
Like moving forward, we're going to fire fast. If we're not doing it, you're gone. Like it just is what it is. Because we have quite a few leaders that have had plenty of time to improve their departments, and they've been given every opportunity to do that. They've also been given the support, the direction. And if they're not going to step up, they're going to be gone.
Yep.
And it just is what it is. And we've already let go of quite a few people this year.
Yeah.
It's been quite a turnover.
Just this week now.
Yeah. I mean, this year is like, we've fired our director of marketing. We fired our sales director. We hired a new sales director. Our director, I don't know, director of operations?
Our operations manager, yeah.
Customer support, resigned, which either way. And so and then on another business side, we also had, we let go of one of our kind of not brand. It was more of like advertising manager.
Yeah.
Basically.
His marketing manager.
Yeah, marketing manager. So there's changes happening right now. And the fact that we're still $1 million ahead of EBITDA is shocking to me, because I wake up and I'm just shocked by it. But that's also financial magic. And when we look at the numbers, we're like, okay, we need to turn this around now, or we're not going to see the type of gains that we want to. Yeah,
we're not going to get to the next level. I think that's like a good call out for a lot of leaders that, you get stuck in that, 3 to 5 million range, now like 8 to 10 million range. And like a lot of people get stuck like at that 10 million range and can't get over that. And revenue is because they keep the people that they had on the bus at the beginning are still the same people there. And very rarely are those the same people that can get you to the next stage. And there's definitely outliers where those people can get you there and they can learn and they can grow and they'll step up. But what we've seen time and time again is most people don't. I think it's really hard at this level too, is and the people that have been on the bus since the beginning is they're early adopters. They're all bought in. They exhibit all the core tenets. It's they just don't have the skill set to get to the next level. And that's those are the hardest ones. And that's why I think you end up holding on to them, or at least why I hold on to them for so much longer, is because you're they want it so bad and you want it so bad for them. And they just can't, they just don't have it. They can't get there. And so, but that's not fair to the business because the business isn't going to grow and everybody else is also on the bus and you have to protect everybody else to make sure we continue to keep growing and scaling. I think a lot of times as leaders, like if you're stuck and you're in this place of like, you feel like you can't get to the next level, it's usually the people surrounding you within the business and that are bottlenecking you. And you're usually bottlenecking yourself because you don't want to replace them. And usually I think you get to that point as well and you've passed off a lot of things. Like you've brought people in to delegate and give things to. And at least for me, like I didn't want to make the hard decision because I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna have to dive in and like go do all of this. I would say like low level work, but like just work that I've gotten out of for so long that I'm like, I don't want to dive back in and do all those things. Like I don't want to answer support tickets. I don't want to help figure out how to restructure a support team because like I've already done it and I don't want to do it again.
You've done it multiple times.
But it's just like you have to. And like we have to like dive in and do the work. You have to do the work. Like the business doesn't care that I don't want to do the work. I have to dive in and do the work anyway. But I think that's like a lot of the times as leaders, like we just don't want to do it because we've already done it. And so it's like, oh man, like I could be focusing on all of these other things that are going to push the business forward. But if you don't clean this up first and make sure the operations and the team can support where you're trying to go next, like you're never going to get to that next thing because you're always going to have to dive back in and be handling all these dumpster fires all day long.
Yeah. And it usually takes longer than what most people think too. And the reason why I say that is we talked to gym owners about this, but if you're a business owner and you have to go in and basically turn over an entire department, it's going to take much longer than you think.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's going to take much longer is the turnover and the changes may happen faster, but you have to sit in that department and ensure that those changes are just instilled into the entire fabric of the people within that department and the systems. So you have to verify consistently forever.
Yep.
But you have to over-verify more often.
Yep.
Going back to just individuals, like there's lots of people, and this happens across the board. I mean, there's the Peter Principle, and I just pulled it up so I don't misquote it, but it states that the person who is competent at their job will earn a promotion to a position that requires different skills. If the promoted person lacks the skills required for the new role, they will be incompetent at the new level and will not be promoted again. Basically, it's the idea that they will rise to the level of their incompetence, and then they will then be fired or let go. Because at that point, if you think about it, for a lot of people, you reach a certain level, and once you get to that level, right, you don't want to go back down. When that's an ego hit, it's also a pay cut.
Yeah.
But you might have been better off there where you could have thrived as an individual.
Yeah.
But no one really wants to do that because everyone's like, no, I can do it. I can do it. I can make it happen. But there's people that you just can't do it. And that's the same for all of us. Like at some point, like I'm not going to go run X for Elon Musk. Like I don't have that ability right now. And it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But, and like right now, like I am only a $30 million a year CEO. I'm not a $50 million a year CEO. I'm a $30 million a year CEO. And like, I need to improve that.
Yeah. And $30 million a year business problems are different than $100 million a year business problems.
100%. Absolutely.
I think a lot of the times we see this a lot too with gym owners, especially as they scale and grow really quickly. And they usually don't have the infrastructure, team infrastructure to get to the next stage. So they have to, hire people, bring people in. And usually it's like manager level roles is like the type of people that they're trying to bring in. And a lot of the times we see like a really awesome individual contributor. They then will promote to be a manager or, in other cases in business, like a director or whatever. And we are so slow to promote from individual contributor to like a leadership position because the skill set to be an individual contributor is so different than the skill set of managing people. And then managing people, the skill set of managing people is so different than the skill set of leading people, right? And so like the different levels of individual contributor, manager, director, executive, they're all so like the skill sets in each one are so different and require such a different level. And then you put in where the business is at, like the revenue level of the business, and then it becomes the problems and the skill sets needed for the revenue level of the business are different in each of those positions as well. But like one of the biggest mistakes we see is like people promote from individual contributor to manager, and then they want them to lead people, and then they lost their best individual contributor that was driving all of the results, and then they got someone who has no experience leading people, and then they have to let go of this person because they don't want to go back down to being an individual contributor, but they're not excelling at their job because they've never done it before. They've never led people before, and then they're out two different positions.
Yep.
The person driving the results and someone to manage the people.
Yep.
And so just, caution for anyone looking to, hire or having to promote into different roles is just really understanding, like, do they have the skill set for whatever that level and that role is? And just because they're a really great individual contributor doesn't mean that they'll also be really good at leading people. Yeah. And sometimes they are 100%, but, sometimes they're not too. And so it's just really good to dive into that and make sure that the skill sets can transfer over to the next level.
I see this a ton on the sales side and the marketing side, a ton. But that's also because I'm in there more. But I definitely see that more because a sales individual contributor, like it's very different from being someone who's a great manager or director who can lead an entire sales organization, because an individual contributor is out there hunting. They're very competitive. They want to win. They also love making money. And so typically you're going to actually make less money becoming a manager and a director. So then you're going to start finding ways to try to make more money, or that competitive drive will then just kill the team morale. And especially if you're still dabbling in sales, you'll still want to outsell everyone.
Yeah.
So, and it also marketing is a little bit harder because marketing, when you get to a director level, you're not the one doing the work, but you need to be the strategist, but you need to understand what everyone else is doing enough to be dangerous to where, when someone is effing up, and then you're good. Yeah. So before we wrap up, what are just for historical purposes, when we look back on this, what are the 3 lessons that you learned from this strat?
Lesson 1 would be to ask better questions. Ask more questions, not better questions. I think I ask good questions to start, but diving deeper. It's like asking deeper questions to like really understand. Like if it feels off, not just being like, okay, and like moving on to move on, but like spending time there because it doesn't feel right. And if it doesn't feel right, then there's definitely something to dive deeper in there. Probably lesson 1.
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know. The other one I think maybe is more just from an operational side for me is like, it doesn't matter how, like we do so much. So before we even get to the in-person, we do like 2 weeks of pre-prep and planning. Like there's so much planning that goes in just to like make the in-person as effective as possible. And so I think just, how can we be more effective with our time? Like how can we organize it better? Which isn't really a lesson. It's more just a note for myself to remember next quarter, how can we make it even better than this quarter now? Because we always seem to run out of time. And so that'll just be like what I'm be focusing on this quarter is like, how do we restructure this to make sure we don't run out of time? We can make it as effective as possible. We come out with all of our action items and takeaways. That's really it. I don't think those are the 2 that come to mind.
Yeah.
What about you?
Mine are read the room. What I mean by that is I tend to have lots of ideas, lots of opportunities, and to remember that like now may not be the best time to talk about them. That's one of them. But then the other one is really the biggest lesson that I took, not just from Strat, but from this quarter. And it continues to be the thing that frankly, I think is my biggest weakness and bottleneck. And that is I need to move faster within changes within the team, much faster than I'm comfortable with. And I need to be willing to fire way faster. And that is something I need to commit to moving forward. And if I could give any advice to anyone is fire twice as fast as you think you need to, because it will only compound and get so much worse. And every time we fired someone, we have always found a solution and figured it out no matter what. And long-term, it's been so much better. Yeah. Most of the time in the short term, it's been better, but long-term, no matter what, it always improves.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think, I know we're running short on time, but I think it's important to just talk about real quick how we support each other through the process too, like being married. Because it's very different, like leading up to it. Obviously, like at least for me, when we go in with the team, we're very much like 1 and 2. Like we're not like husband and wife. I mean, obviously everyone knows we're married, but like I'm not like spending all of my time with you when we're here with the team. And like even at dinners, like sometimes we'll sit together, sometimes we won't. We'll like disperse between the team to like spend time with the team and like develop relationships with people individually and not just like together as like Cale and Maggie with like this person. Like we want to have our own relationships with these people, with the leaders within our company. And so one of the things that I try to be really intentional about is just like not spending all of my time with you, but also spending time with the team and making it so it's like they feel like they can have relationships with us separately, where it's like we don't have to be the same person when it comes to being in the business together, which I think is really good. And then something else, it's nice because now we have an office here in St. Augustine, so the team comes to us. But before we used to travel a lot, so we would be away from our kids for a while. And now we don't have to be. We can keep our routine as much as possible. So like we see them in the morning, but then like it's pretty much bedtime when we get home. You know, we make sure we carve out time. Like this weekend we went, even if we didn't go somewhere with them, we would have like done something just the family here this weekend to like just spend intentional time with them, because for the whole week we're pretty like disconnected, and it's like very just like passing, you know, ships passing in the night with them and with our relationship too. So it's like making sure we still get date night in, especially the weekend before, because we're going to be with a lot of people, which drains you, which I know it also drains me. It's exciting, fun. But like,
I find it as I get older and older, I actually, with the group that we have, as we get a tighter group, I actually get more energy from it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, which is better.
I get so drained.
It used to drain me like crazy.
Mainly because the day drains me, and then I just like my brain's also fried. But you know, I know going in, it's gonna be like a really tired week. Like you and I will be not off, but like we won't have as much like intentional time together that we normally do, which is okay. So it's like still making sure we get our walks in together in the morning, whether we work out.
Make sure we still get it in.
Yeah, just like have time together. You know, and then the weekend following it, just like being really intentional about family time too, to make sure we don't feel disconnected from the kids.
For me, my only focus is not to blow up the meetings. That's it.
Make sure I don't just glare at you the whole time.
Yeah, because I come in with all the crazy ideas. So the strats are fun for me. At some point, they get super boring at other points, but they're very fun for me.
When you talk about HR, I'm just kidding.
Love HR.
We have a running joke in this company.
Love HR. But yeah, other than that, so hope you guys like this episode. For those of you that are business owners, this is way less on the marriage side, much more on the business side, but hopefully it was good for you guys. But more so for us, it's a chance for us to look back. We should listen to this before the next quarterly and take the lessons from that.
Yeah, make sure we're getting better for the next one.
Always grow or die.
Yeah, cool. All
right, appreciate y'all. We'll catch you on the next episode.
All right, I love you too.